Life and impact of Simone de Beauvoir. In the elegant city of Paris, on a crisp January day in 1908, a girl named Simone de Beauvoir was born into a world that had very defined roles and expectations for women. Her family was bourgeois, but had fallen on hard times after World War I. Despite the financial struggles, Simone's parents were determined to give her the best education possible. From an early age, she showed a remarkable intellect and a fierce independence that would eventually lead her to challenge the very foundations of society. Little did anyone know that this young girl, who devoured books and questioned everything, would grow up to become a pioneering feminist philosopher, a voice for women's liberation, and one of the most influential intellectuals of the 20th century. Simone's childhood was shaped by her mother's strict Catholicism and her father's disdain for religion. Her father, who famously declared that Simone had a man's brain, encouraged her intellectual pursuits, while her mother tried to instill traditional values. This tension between expectation and aspiration drove Simone to excel academically. She attended the prestigious Sorbonne University, where she studied philosophy and became one of the youngest students to pass the rigorous agrégation exam, which qualified her to teach philosophy. It was at the Sorbonne that Simone met Jean-Paul Sartre, the man who would become her lifelong partner, both intellectually and romantically. Their relationship was unconventional, to say the least. They vowed to remain together without the constraints of marriage and to allow each other the freedom to pursue other relationships. This pact was radical for its time and a reflection of their shared commitment to personal freedom and authenticity. Together, they became the leading figures of existentialism, a philosophy that emphasized individual freedom, responsibility, and the search for meaning in an indifferent universe. Simone's early career as a teacher and writer was marked by the rise of fascism in Europe and the outbreak of World War II. She and Sartre were part of the French resistance, using their writing to oppose the Nazi occupation and advocate for freedom. It was during this tumultuous period that Simone began to develop her ideas on the oppression of women and the need for their liberation. In 1949, Simone published her groundbreaking book, The Second Sex. In it, she explored the history and social constructs that had relegated women to a subordinate position in society. She famously declared, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman." This phrase challenged the traditional view that gender roles were natural and inevitable. Instead, Simone argued that they were imposed by society and could be changed. She analyzed the ways in which women had been confined to roles as wives, mothers, and caregivers, and how these roles limited their potential and freedom. The Second Sex was revolutionary. It provided a comprehensive critique of patriarchy and called for women to reclaim their agency and autonomy. Simone argued that women's liberation required not just legal and political rights, but also a fundamental change in the way society viewed gender. She called on women to reject the passive roles assigned to them and to become the subject of their own lives, rather than the other, defined only in relation to men. Another of Simone's famous quotes is, "All oppression creates a state of war." She believed that the subjugation of women was not just a social or cultural issue, but a form of violence that deprived women of their humanity and freedom. For her, feminism was not just about achieving equality with men, but about dismantling the entire system of oppression that harmed both men and women. Simone's influence extended far beyond her writings. She was an activist and a public intellectual, advocating for women's rights, reproductive freedom, and social justice. She supported the Algerian independence movement and spoke out against colonialism and the Vietnam War. Her fearless commitment to human rights made her a controversial figure, but also a beacon of courage and integrity. Simone's relationship with Sartre was a complex and often misunderstood aspect of her life. While they shared a deep intellectual and emotional bond, Simone was always determined to be recognized as an independent thinker in her own right. not just as Sartre's companion. She wrote extensively, not only on feminist issues but also on philosophy, politics, and literature. Her novels, memoirs, and essays explored themes of freedom, identity, and the human condition, earning her a place among the great writers and thinkers of her time. In her later years, Simone continued to write and speak out on issues of social justice, even as she faced criticism from both conservatives and some feminists who felt she had not gone far enough in her critique of patriarchy. She remained a controversial figure, unafraid to challenge the status quo and to defend her beliefs. After Sartre's death in 1980, she wrote Adieus, a farewell to Sartre, a moving account of their life together in his final days. Simone de Beauvoir died in 1986, but her legacy lives on. Her work laid the groundwork for the second-wave feminist movement and continues to inspire activists and scholars around the world. Her insistence that women must define themselves and refuse to be defined by others remains a powerful call to action. She showed that true liberation requires not just changing laws and institutions, but also transforming the way we think about ourselves and each other. Simone's life was a testament to the power of intellect and the courage to challenge deeply entrenched beliefs. She dared to imagine a world where women could be free to pursue their own dreams and to shape their own destinies. Her legacy is a reminder that the fight for equality and justice is ongoing, and that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable society.